Hey, welcome to Mystics MMOs. I'm your host, Mystic Raven. Alright, so we're going to get a little gameplay in. And I think the title of the video pretty much speaks for itself, how to say goodnight. Because one of the major effects that are still going on is, the effectiveness of night decks. And actually, let me go ahead and edit. Well, actually build a new deck, I think, out of a night deck. This one's actually pretty good. It's not bad. Knight's Calling is actually pretty good. Let me go ahead and play this, and then we'll maybe build a new one. Because the night with Throne of Eldraine, knights have taken on a whole new dimension to the gameplay, and how effective, the meta is with like speed. Once again, speed decks just being very fast paced, very accessible, very efficient. And I just kind of, there's a lot of things that I don't necessarily like about that type of meta. I don't really like this hand, but at least I'll have some stuff to cast right from the rip. All right. Let's go ahead and let's get this out as fast as possible. We'll put a new night deck, but I figured he'd block. Hopefully we get a land. It'd be nice to get a white one, actually. Black. Okay. Is it going to attack? Will. I don't know if I would have done that, but I don't know if I would have. Just gotta have to decide if he wants to sack the goose or not. He will. Okay. We're gonna go ahead before we do any cast. See if he blocks. He won't. I get a white, it might be, you might be like in a bad position. That could save him too. Nice little blocker. This is a hard call. It's not worth blocking it. It's just gonna get indestructible and take the loss. Okay. I think the biggest thing we can go ahead and do right now is get rid of the 7/7, obviously. Keep this blocker, but gain some life in the process. That'll go next turn. We'll get rid of that as well. Okay. Definitely want to limit his ability to utilize the food function, because he's got the goose, he's got the wicked wolf. Everything else is pretty much in his defensive mode at the moment. Of course he'll eat to negate the 2 damage he's about to take and gain 1. Prolonging his capability to stay in the game. It'll be kind of interesting to see what he does. Probably take up the knight. Alright. Okay, it's kind of a cool card, especially right about now. Question of it is, which card do I want to be signed for this? I think the Foul Knight's going to be the best option. Well, not really. It's good defensive. I think that's going to have a life expectancy and go back anyways. It doesn't matter if he eats the food. It's an instant destruction. It's not dealing damage. I don't think the. I don't think it. I think it still resolves. We'll see. No. Okay. So it definitely protects from the resolution. He did eat the food though. Nice thing about. Okay, he pulled. Night decks are just doing an insane amount of work, and I mean an insane amount of work on most decks. The reason being is the accessibility to the lands. Like you can run Tri-Night decks now. One of the biggest Tri-Night decks right now is something like this, or I can utilize 4 colors. It's not, you know, whatever, but Tournament's Ground is definitely covering a lot of ground in gameplay. I like Knights of Autumn with this. I don't get it out as frequently, but it definitely has a lot going for it as far as a total Knights package. When it comes to like building around Knights, it's not very hard to do that given the fact that you can draw so well with green right now. And that within itself is one of the problematic features of what's going on with the Knights. Because just by adding this card, let's say we splash in black, we put Knight, we can use the Foulmire Knights, we can use the Knights of Ebon Legion, you can even use Black Lance Paragon, which is really nice for, you know, putting it out there. Murderous Knights is an amazing card. Oathsworn's really good. Order of Midnight. Pretty much want to utilize all the storyboards as much as possible with these type of decks. And then if you want to do long game, you can add the Cavalier of Night. I only add about 3 of him. Don't need a lot of that card. And if, like, we'll switch this to a standard. And then add Lucky Clover. And then control scenarios. Okay. So on the 2. And then you can add like Lucky Clover. Right, because we have storyboards. Works out really nice, especially with stuff like Smitten Sword Master. Because when we take a look, Knights, we're running 22 Knights already in this deck. A total of 22 Knights. And that's pretty impressive stuff. That's pretty actually disgusting. Now also we can do stuff like our instances. All right. One of the instances I personally enjoy utilizing in anything is return cards. But let's say we want to get a Planeswalker, right? Like, because we're thinking end game, obviously. And Liliana is still one of the really dominant Planeswalkers. Let's say we want to run an instant now for some sort of control. Just figured works out really nice. Doesn't really help against a lot of lower end. But actually, let's go with sorcery card. And there's different things you can utilize. Legion's End's pretty good, but it only affects like lower end cost cards. We got death touches. We've got a lot of defensive elements, but we definitely want to control like 3 Gruesome Megrams really come in handy, right? Especially if you have Innkeeper and you're bringing back into play, it definitely comes in handy. So definitely a plus. We could actually run 4 of these if we wanted to. But actually what I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to bring that down to 2. And then we can run the Black Lance. Definitely pretty good. Now we're going to go ahead and pick up our land. I want to use the castle. About 2 of those. I don't need a lot. We'll run 3 Witches' Cauldrons. We'll use both of my Overgrown Tombs. And then we can use like 2 of my Lady. Now we can whittle down this to about 10. I don't want to take the forest down too much. Might sack up the Temple of My Lady. It's probably in the best interest because I don't think we'll need to scry too much. This way we have 8. Because remember, the only green we're actually going to be running is the edge wall. Everything else is pretty much black. But you want to be able to pull that green. That's why the dual lands come in handy, but keep in mind, keeping anything tapped for a turn is problematic. It can slow down the game. And pretty much this is about it, you know. This is how like night decks have progressed, you know, unfortunately. You can still run a short end game. If things get out of control, you have a longer end game. The problem with this deck is against flight. Its weakness is against flight and burn. So blue and red still has a prominent advantage over decks like this, but if you get lifelink out and you can control the board, you have a nice. Oh, I picked up the wrong deck. We'll switch it out after this game. Actually, I like this a little bit better. Not ideal by any means, but it's fine. Now I want to go ahead. I'll use the scry first. I won't need that right away, so we'll drop that in the back. Speed deck. All right. Pull out the knight. He'll blow it up next turn anyways. No. Okay. I would have blown it up first. If he blows it up after the fact, that's kind of a little whatever. It's a pretty decent card. It doesn't have a trample. But throwing the death touch. It should stay some of it.
Andra, you need more control. Don't worry, I brought company.
Now, do I let him take it? Yeah, because I can get the Chandra up after this, and I can get the other one out. Let's go with Smitten as a sacrificial lamb.
I thought this was a sparring match.
This is gonna hurt for sure. We need life, even if it's one. It's pretty much dead. I can't block everything. I'll gain some life, but that's a pretty good call.
Not to brag, but
Getting the other two
I'm
out,
totally
doing the two.
They're so cute.
Once again, speed decks. It's like it just said, red's a problem in these type of the situation, and Wizards did it to themselves. Like, why so many people are just running the same? They've taken the complexity of the game and gave it too much accessibility up front. It's unfortunate, but it's the end result of giving low-end cards that much power. That's the result. I mean, the game always had like something like that, but you would have to combo it. Like, I remember we were just talking about Royal Assassin. It was kind of funny. It was a good conversation piece. We were talking about Royal Assassin, for example, and Royal Assassin by itself was a very complex card because when you saw it, you kept saying to yourself, oh shit, there's a Royal Assassin. Oh shit, there's a Royal Assassin. And it's not a card you would necessarily want to go against. You were just like, This isn't a card that ideally I want to see. I don't necessarily like this hand, but you know, I'll try it. It's not a card I necessarily want to see up front, but it's a card that I can deal with. And that within itself was, you know, something, because you knew you had to tap it in order for it to respond. It had a respond mechanic, or it had to be comboed up with something like Icy Manipulator. It wasn't a card that was completely functional on its own merit. It was just like, you know, hey, yeah, this is gonna really suck balls, but at the end of the day, it was put in check within the mechanics of the game itself. And now it's, you know, the game's just like, we're just going to hand auto mechanics without combo structure, because why not do it? Why not? All right. If it brings out something, yeah. Case. Gimmick deck. All day, every day. It's a gimmick. He has no creatures. He has none. That's a bad mistake. I wouldn't hand you that card. I would not be handing me cards like that. You don't want to hand me cards like that. You definitely do not want to hand me cards like that. It's gonna do wipe it again. Yep. It's a gimmick deck. And the guy doesn't understand, like, basically I'm gonna mull him down just with stupid mechanics. I'm gonna counter it. Yeah, it's fine. I don't care. Put it on top. You're really not hurting me, dude. You're only hurting yourself. Stupid. God, I hope you will have something so fucking significant. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Like, these gimmick decks don't work. Like, they think they do. They're trying to be like, oh, you know, I'm good. But it's not, see? Don't play gimmicks. Here's my advice to you. Against this meta, stop trying to play the gimmicks. It's going to get you killed. It just does. There's too much efficiency in the design of Eldraine with storyboard. It's just too prominent. I mean, I'm not saying that Eldraine low end storyboard is an end game closer. It's not. But to establish your initial gameplay and to run up the combos, it's too tempting to ignore, because Wizards decided to put a mechanic that you get a 2-for-1 in each card. So it's a 2-1 effect regardless. And it can't target the card because it's considered an exiled card that's coming back into play once you use the storyboard. So it can't be discarded. It can't be, unless you're, flushing out the graveyard. It's not an exile, I should say, it's in the graveyard. But it literally, you have to like remove the cards from the graveyard and completely empty out what's accessible. That's not easy to do unless the new set comes out. And these gimmick decks are suffering. They always want these enchantment decks now. And they're good against standard decks because it's about defensive mechanics. But Eldraine is like saying, like, fuck you, I got combos for days. I got one combo plays that you're not going to be able to keep up with, and you'll suffer the consequences if you don't man the fuck up. You will suffer for it. And that's something you can't necessarily just I don't like the hand, but I'm going to keep it. But that's not something you can no longer ignore. You can no longer just say, hey, it's fine, Because once I get this Lucky Clover out, once I play Murderous Rider, it could target 2 targets now with Lucky Clover. So what are you going to do? I mean, seriously, you're going to try to play enchantments and be like, oh, well, I'll just throw out the new Doom's enchantment and force you to sacrifice, and then I'll get this end game winning effect. But it's like you have to put out all of these other effects to take precedence prior to that. So you've just kind of hosed yourself. I already know what he's gonna most likely do. So let's go ahead and we'll get rid of it, because it's gonna be 1/1s and then it's just gonna kind of get out of hand. I'd rather nip it in the ass now before it starts roller coastering. We don't need to play the Lucky Clover yet. We'll just fire up the Death Foulmire Knight just in case. Yeah, see? And I'm good at this shit. I can predict these type of game mechanics. Okay. I think my best bet is to get the draws. I have a better long game by drawing versus playing the Clover right now. Excellent. No flyer, right? He's got a double strike. We get the next Lucky Clover out. We pop one Murderous Rider, and he's pretty much on. That's a good combo. It's going to cost them. And I'll show you guys why. This is gonna suck for him so bad. Now the first one resolves. He banked on too much of, like, you know, we're just going to put out 4/4 flyers, you know, with the other card. That's good. I mean, I guess. Do I want to bring back the Death Knight at this point? I mean, I can. That's fine. We can play it next turn. Gave me life. Gonna get a 4/4 flyer. Now he's gonna get a 4/4 flyer on tap. What he doesn't know is I'm running this card again. Now we can play out the board. Draw. And we are unimposed. He doesn't have enough. Yeah, he knows. And that's game. I'm going to once again reintegrate that this is how you say goodnight. This is how you say goodnight in this game. Because things have been channeled and focused on an element of gameplay that is beyond your reason to counter or build around appropriately. Because it's too quick. It's too quick. It's too accessible, right? And it's funneled the meta into this narrow options. Very narrow, very, like, it's all about speed at this point. Like, a lot of times on speed decks, if you bumped into a good, strong defensive measure, it was easy to rectify. Or to at least say, okay, I'm going to put a defender out there. So when they bring these 1/1 first strikers, no biggie, it's going to go ahead and get. They're going to have to at least take out my defender, and that's going to give me ample time by third turn to at least build. You know, you get those two, the second and third turn, to build appropriately. But because you have Death Touch, that's so accessible. You have, you know, cards that are just like taking out big creatures with 2 mana without any repercussions. It's just limited the long game. It's just made the long game, and it's like everybody's now focused. Like, if you're going to play a long game, it has to have a gimmick. It has to have some sort of, you know, gimmick associated. But the problem of it is, if everything is up front, resolving these concerns like disenchants, like, here's the thing too. You gave a creature You gave a creature a sacrifice disenchant, not an associated cost disenchant. No, 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 no. It's not what you did. You gave the creature the capability to literally sack. Like, you can tap a creature, destroy a creature, red and green, destroy it. There's an enchantment. There's the defender. Second turn, the person gets the enchantment. By your second turn, you blow up his only defender just to do what? Sacrifice their enchantment. Right? It's like it's a given. It's a given. It's not a question of what. It's like it's a given. It's like you're funneling too much. It's not like an associated cost where pay one, sacrifice this creature, and destroy target enchantment. No, that's not it. It's like literally sacrifice this creature, destroy it. It's a 1-for-1 card. No, it's not. Why? Because that enchantment, like, more people are getting away from utilizing artifacts, enchantments, equipment. They're getting away from it. They're going back to just straight creature decks. Or because why? Because the creatures have the effects associated. The creatures already have effects associated. And in night decks, it's more prominent. Because why? Because they've made it too accessible. And I hate that that's what's happened with Eldraine. And that's what's been going on these last couple of sets. Because we were talking even about Abyssal Spectre. Like, Abyssal Spectre back in the day was a pain in the ass card. But it was easy to dispatch. It took time to put Abyssal Spectre onto the field. But now it's like, oh, that's no longer a problem. Those cards actually took a minute to put into play because it yielded the most reward. The question is, once it got into play, how was you going to defend it? Right? That's what became the question. How do you defend one of your most, game-changing cards? And that's what the game, you had to determine how to defend your cards. But now it's like, don't defend anything. Don't equip anything. Don't enchant anything. Unless it's for a defensive purpose. Attack, 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 attack. And the creatures will do the rest. Because they already have effects associated. And to me, that's kind of just like, why would you do that? Why are you, like, giving such accessibility to the beginning? Don't get me wrong, I still love the game. I love it. I'm just criticizing the decisions behind what's going on, because when I take a look at some cards, there are cards that are insanely awesome, but they're too expensive. Our Agent of Treachery is an expensive card, but it has the most impact because it's any permanent. There's ways of getting Maul of Flames out. Seraph the Skyblade. This card is ridiculous because you just need to tap 4. You can get this out on a 4th turn. If you have 4, you can get this out on a 4th turn. This is a 7 card out on 4th turn. Grants all your flyers indestructible except this card. Good luck. Plane Wide Celebration. I love this card. I'll never get to play it. I love this card, and I'll never get to play it. Magic Mirror is a part of gimmick decks. Good card, but it's a gimmick. Straight up gimmick deck. Not gonna lie. Henge, easy way to get around it. They've made it like this spell costs X less to cast. Depending on your power creature. Just put out creatures out there that dump mana, and you can get this out on 4th turn. Not 9th turn, not 7th turn. You can get this out on 4th turn. Like with the associated costs and a creature. Trust you and me. I've seen it. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each instant sorcery. You can get this out, I think, in 5th turn. I think you can actually get Magic Mirror out in 5th. But, there are so many cards out there that just they don't get to see light of day because of the associated costs, because Like Planar Cleanse. Planar Cleanse is insanely devastating. It's an insanely devastating. But what does it require? It requires defense, defense, defense. And then it's like you're overwhelmed, just wipe everything. That's part of a gimmick. Nobody's using this as it's intended. They're using it as gimmicks. Why? To keep the board clear. To build. Destroy, destroy, destroy. You know? This card has suffered with this update. Dream Eater. Dream Eater's a great card. But it's suffered so much. And when we're talking about also Planeswalkers, everybody's using green to get Planeswalkers out. So if you see, a lot of times you're seeing Chandra paired with green. Why? Because you can get elves out there and get Chandra out on a 4th turn versus the 6th turn. You know? Once again, why is all of this relative? Because the long game is being lost. The strategies are no longer appreciated. The combo structures are no longer appreciated. Everything's up front and made too accessible. And now all you have is speed or die. Now, remember when you used to play, and I'm talking to the old school players, and you would think to yourself, should I draw first or should I go first? That was a decision. When you used to roll the dice and you get decision, or you did a split for the highest cost on the draw if you didn't have a dice. That was another way to determine who got choice first. You would have to make that decision. Should I draw or should I go? Now it's not even an option. Like the option's being taken away from players. It's being randomized. Because whoever goes first has the advantage. I always tell people it's like chess. Whoever goes first is the offensive player in chess. Why? Because the secondary player has to be defensive the entire match. He's got to manipulate the player to make a mistake in order to turn the game into his favor. But whoever goes first is offensive. Always, majority of the time. And whoever's going second is a defensive player. And the decks aren't being built for that anymore. It's not being built for the decision of saying what's benefiting me as a player more. It's what benefits my deck better. What's my deck designed to do? It's designed to go first. Majority of the time, and that's what I feel is the most frustrating aspect to the evolution of Magic. It's like no longer is it becoming strategic, it's becoming, exploitive. It's like I have to go first or hope that they have a tap land and I can throw up my first creature out without tap land. Like tap lands, dual lands that come in tapped come at a very, very hefty cost. It's like, oh, you gain a life. It's a diversion from that 1 point you're going to lose. No. That's a board. That's on the field. Anything on the field takes precedent. And it's diverting that game style, that gameplay. And I just showed it the last two hands what you can do with knights in this setup, in this meta. Because storyboards is 2 for 1. You're getting 2 effects for 1 card. I like the idea behind it, but it should have been like, how do you want to play this card? You have 2 effects. You can play either or, but you can't have both. That's the way this should have been designed. But that's not how it was designed. Storyboard adventure cards weren't made to make you choose. It was to incentivize both elements of the gameplay. Then all of a sudden you add Edgewall Innkeeper for one that has an automatic draw mechanic to every adventure card. Now you add Lucky Clover and it's like it becomes too accessible. It becomes too tempting not to take advantage of. So there you have it. That's what Eldraine has brought. And it's taken certain cards in the standard format and made them obsolete. Because your beginning game should be about what? Functionality. Should be about the functionality of your deck, not what you want, how you want to play. It no longer matters how you want to play the game of Magic. That's irrelevant now. That's obsolete. It's outdated. It's about what's the most functional, what's the most accessible. You know, don't think of original combo ideas. Don't think about that anymore. That's why are you doing that? You know, that's an old school player's mentality of trying to figure out what you can do with a card. We're going to give you these cards and you're going to all play the same way. And it sucks. It really, really sucks. So with that being said, I'm going to let you guys go. But I still enjoyed the game. I'm just criticizing how you say goodnight. And with Eldraine, you grab Knights and grab Adventure cards. Okay? All right. Once again, I'm Mr. Craven. This is Mystics MMOs. As always, thank you. Have a nice day.